Welcome back to Denver Boulder Living. My name is Renee Sobering, and I serve the amazing people of the Denver Boulder area. Today we're talking about how to get an edge as a buyer in a hot seller's market. To give you an idea of just how hot the market is, Daryl and I recently had a beautiful listing in a really competitive price range. After multiple offers and many phone calls back and forth with multiple brokers, our seller settled on an offer that was $40,000 over list price with $25,000 guaranteed over appraisal. Yeah. As a buyer, you may hear that story and think, I'll wait until later. But to those of you wanting to wait, I would just like to remind you that home prices in the Denver Boulder area went up by approximately 15 to 16% on average last year. Some areas were as high as 25%. Waiting may not be your best option. Fear not though. Although you may be nervous to try to buy in such a hot seller's market, I'm going to give you some strategies that will help you compete. I'm not going to lie, it's tough out there for buyers right now, but just because it's a seller's market does not mean that you need to put your home buying aspirations on hold. Here's a few things that you can do to make buying in a hot seller's market just a bit easier. Number one, pick the right realtor. This may seem a bit self-serving, but it really is that important, and we are not all created equal. A good realtor should prepare you for what to expect from the market and help you adjust your expectations if necessary. Finally, they should educate you on how the buying process works so that you are ready to make an offer and are able to make quick and well-informed decisions, which is absolutely necessary right now. Communication skills are absolutely key in choosing your realtor since they will be representing you to the seller's broker. The listing that I mentioned earlier that had so much competition, of the many offers that we had, there was a few offers that showed up with no communication from the other broker whatsoever. No call, no text, just an email saying this is our offer. They weren't even close to the running because the other broker didn't bother to make a phone call or text us to find out what was going on with the property. We were already well above listing price, and those offers were instantly discarded by our seller because they weren't even close. Again, communication is key when choosing your realtor. Number two, be prepared. Before you even think about going on showings, there are things that you need to consider. Have you figured out where your earnest money is coming from? Where your down payment is coming from? What's your credit score? Have you chosen the right lender? And has your lender put you through a full pre-approval, not just a pre-qualification? Those are very, very different things in the eyes of a seller. All of these things should be dealt with before stepping foot in your first showing. The last thing you want is to miss out on a home that you love because you weren't prepared to make an offer. On a side note, make sure your lender is a good communicator as well and is willing to be available as needed to have a conversation with the seller's realtor to discuss your ability to close the deal. The impression that your lender makes can have a big impact on getting your offer accepted. Number three, and this is a big one, making a competitive offer. Now, there are a number of tools that we can use to make a competitive offer, but the most powerful by far is to stop for a moment and put yourself in the seller's shoes. Imagine that you are selling your home and you are the one reading all of the offers. What would you look for? What would be most important to you? So there's a few things that we can do here. Number one, of course, is the asking price. Be prepared in a competitive market to offer over the asking price if there are multiple offers on a property. In a competitive market, it's a good practice to look for properties that are under your max budget to give you room to offer above asking. Secondly, escalation clauses. An escalation clause escalates your offer by some predetermined amount of money over any other offer up to a certain limit. Adding an escalation clause can not only get your offer noticed, it may just get you under contract. Closing date. There are a lot of sellers in this market that are nervous about becoming a buyer, afraid that they will have trouble competing in the market. I think you can understand where they're coming from. One thing you can do as a buyer to set yourself above any other offers is to be open to giving the seller the time they need. We call this a leaseback, and it can be anywhere from 1 to 60 days after closing, where the seller becomes a tenant in your home. This gives them the time that they need to find a new home, Not everyone is comfortable with the idea of becoming a landlord, even if it is only temporary. So it's a way that you can set yourself apart from other offers. Inspection items. I will never advise a client to waive their inspection rights. But what I can tell you is that an offer that states that a buyer will only ask for major mechanical or major health and safety issues to be remedied will win out over an offer with a standard inspection objection most of the time. The seller wants to know that the buyer isn't going to nitpick about every little imperfection in the home. If this isn't something you're comfortable with as a buyer, leave it out. It's completely up to you. It's simply a suggestion to help you get your foot in the door. Appraisal guarantee. This is a big one. Just because you offered $20,000 over the asking price does not mean that the appraiser will agree with your valuation of the home. If an appraisal comes in below the contract price, one of four things happens. The seller reduces the contract price, the buyer brings extra cash to closing, the buyer and seller meet somewhere in the middle, or the contract terminates. Now think about it a second from the seller's point of view. The appraisal deadline is usually as much as 3 weeks after the original contract is signed. As a seller, after 3 weeks of thinking that your home is sold for X amount of dollars, to have to reduce the price or put it back on the market is not a very appealing option. This is where an appraisal guarantee comes in when making an offer. When offering more than the asking price on a home, an appraisal guarantee states that the buyer will bring up to X amount of money to cover any gap between the appraised value and the contract price. For example, in a scenario where the buyer bid $20,000 over the listing price, they might offer to guarantee anywhere from $1,000 to $20,000 over the appraised value, up to the contract price, depending on their available funds. This guarantee can help to set a seller's mind at ease, knowing that even if the appraisal comes in at lower than the contract price, they will still get X. And this can help your contract stand out in a really competitive market. When offering an appraisal guarantee, it is imperative that your realtor and your lender communicate with you and with each other, since any appraisal guarantee will likely reduce the amount of money available for your down payment and your closing costs. Once again, communication is key. Finally, we're to number 4, and this is a very simple one, but it's something that I think people miss a lot, and that is think outside the box. If you're short, like I am, always go for the low-hanging fruit, which means if you think you might have trouble competing, go to where there's less competition. Most properties are going under contract over the weekend. Look for the properties that have been on the market for more than 1 week. These properties might be more willing to negotiate. There may be fewer offers or no offers. There may be some issues with the properties. They may have had a deal fall through due to inspection or financing, or they may simply have overpriced their property. Either way, it gives you a better opportunity to get under contract. If you choose the wrong realtor to help you in this market, you really could end up making offer after offer after offer, wondering why they aren't getting accepted. I always educate my clients on what to expect, how to be competitive, and which properties are going to be easier to get under contract so that the home buying process can be fun rather than frustrating. At this point, I've given you a lot of information, and you may be realizing that you need some personal guidance as to how to compete in a hot seller's market. You may also be thinking, where do I start? That's where I come in. Whether you're contemplating buying your first home, your next home, or your forever home, I can help you through the process. Just send me a message or text me at 406-697-4294. No pressure, no sales tactics, just the help and guidance that you need. Please feel free to post any questions, comments, or concerns. I always go back and check my videos in order to answer any questions that come up in the comments section. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you in the next episode. Again, I'm Renee Sobering with Denver Boulder Living.